Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English, where I am here to tell you about those rocking pronunciation poems again and give you an example of what you can expect if you come to the free workshop on Wednesday the 18th of September at 7 p.m. London time, 8 p.m. European time. Remember, just stop the podcast you're listening to, click the link and you can book your place. Only 50 places available. Anyway, so I have a rocking pronunciation poem for you today, and I have a student, the before and after, okay, to see how you can improve if you come along to the workshop, because we may even be looking specifically at this pronunciation poem. Okay, so here is the pronunciation poem. To understand it, you may need to know the word banter. Remember, banter is a very common word at Rock and Roll English. When you make fun of someone, but in a friendly way, that is called banter. If I make fun of you and I'm being horrible, that is not banter. And also the city in America called Atlanta. Okay, so here is the rocking pronunciation poem. There once was a fellow called Santa, who was ever so proud of his banter. He had put on a voice and call himself Joyce and make silly calls to Atlanta. So it doesn't really make much sense, but it's got a nice rhythm to it, hasn't it? So there once was a fellow called Santa. We all know him, Father Christmas. Fellow meaning man. There once was a fellow called Santa, who was ever so proud of his banter. So he was proud of his funny banter. He had put on a voice and call himself Joyce. So he would pretend to be Joyce. He would say, "Hello, I'm Joyce," because he had put on a voice and call himself Joyce and make silly calls to Atlanta. So from what I understand, Santa is calling people in Atlanta, pretending to be someone called Joyce, saying, "Hello, my name's Joyce." Anyway, as I said, it doesn't make much sense, but let's just listen to it again. There once was a fellow called Santa, who was ever so proud of his banter. He had put on a voice and call himself Joyce and make silly calls to Atlanta. So now let's hear a student say this, okay? We have the before and after version. So first of all, I will play the before version, then the after, and then we're going to break it down a little bit, okay? So here is the before version.
There once was a fellow called Santa who was ever so proud of his banter. He'd put on a voice and call himself Joyce and make silly calls to Atlanta.
Okay, so that was the before version. Now let's listen to the after version, after we did some of this pronunciation poem exercises on it, okay? Now, there are many things that are different, but first of all, just focus on the musicality, okay? Because people don't realize how important the musicality of a language is and how much easier it is to understand someone if they have the correct musicality of the language. And it also makes it much easier to understand people when you know the musicality. So here is the after version.
There once was a fellow called Santa, who was ever so proud of his banter. He put on a voice and called himself Joyce and make silly calls to Atlanta.
So as you can see, there is quite a difference. It's much smoother. The pronunciation of specific sounds is much better, and the musicality is there because the words do not now have equal weight. For example, it's not there once was a, it's there once was a fellow called Santa. Now, I could break this down, but this is what we're going to do at the workshop. So I'm just going to play it for you again, line by line. So you have the before version and then the after version, so you can just hear the difference. Are you ready? Let's go.
There once was a fellow called Santa
There once was a fellow called Santa,
who was ever so proud of his banter.
who was ever so proud of his banter.
He'd put on a voice and call himself Joyce
He'd put on a voice and call himself Joyce
and make silly calls to Atlanta.
and make silly calls to Atlanta.
So if you would like something similar and you would like to record one of these rocking pronunciation poems as well, then come to my free workshop, which remember is on Wednesday the 18th of September at 7 p.m. London time and 8 p.m. European time, like Spain, Italy, France, Poland, and all of these countries. And we will work specifically on rocking pronunciation poems like this, and we're going to really break it down. So as I said, it will help you sound more natural when speaking, but also help you understand when listening. So again, pause this podcast right now, click on the link inside the episode you are listening to, book your spot. There are only 50 available. And remember, if you come to the live event, you will get a free gift, which costs actual money to buy on the internet. So thanks a lot for listening. I will talk to you very soon. But in the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby.